Hello, this is Paul Chek. Welcome back to yet another one of my many video blogs. This month, the theme that we're operating on at the Chek Institute is creating balance in your life, and therefore I thought I would do a video blog today titled Creating Balance in Your Life. What a coincidence. Now, to begin with, this is the cover off of my multimedia ebook, The Last 4 Doctors Will Ever Need. It has slideshows, audio clips, video clips, and text, and gives you lots and lots of very relevant things to learning how to balance your life and how to have a holistic living philosophy. It's simple enough that even a teenager, possibly a smart child, could go through it and get a tremendous amount out of it, so don't be worried that it's going to be heavy duty. It's not. My book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, has a series of questionnaires to help you identify where your body and your mind is under stress and gives you a very specific protocol for rehabilitating yourself effectively through balancing out diet and key lifestyle factors, and gives you a lot of exercise options from working in to working out, as well as offering you programs that are ideal for people with your total stress level. So the higher your total stress level is on the questionnaires, the easier the programs are. So it's staged so that anybody can identify where they should be starting and how to start effectively. Fully customized, fully individualized, one of the only books in the world that everybody can read and get completely different diet and lifestyle programs out of. So there you go. I will share other resources as I go where they're appropriate, but there are many. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about here is the importance of identifying your dream, and if you don't have a dream, what to do next. I do have an audio recording called Finding Your Dreamline, and that comes with some PDF documents that give you forms to use to monitor your 4-doctor performance on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And I show you how to look at the data you're gathering on yourself and then use it to guide your choices so that you are more consistently on your dream line, which would be the natural flow, the optimal flow of creative energy, and doing the things you need to do, but not overdoing it or underdoing it, so you can live. Okay? So to begin, here's my diagram, which I will orient you to. This would be the equivalent of your GPS coordinates, or the metaphorical saying your North Star, the direction you want your life to go, or you're choosing for your life to go in. Remember, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So choosing not to choose is choosing. So we have to remember that we all have to take responsibility for ourselves, and if you're not choosing and you're wondering why your life is so bumpy, then it means you probably are still in the child phase of your adult growth and development cycle, which means you haven't become an adult yet. So that's not unusual regardless of age. So what we want to do in order to create balance in our life is we have to decide, what are we motivated to do? What is more exciting to us than our problems and our poor me, woulda, shoulda, coulda, didn't type syndromes? Most of the people that have those syndromes don't have any sense of clear direction in their life, or they wouldn't have time to be farting around with all that sad sack behavior. Now, many have a hard time finding their dream. I have an entire PPS Success Mastery workshop you can get at ppssuccess.com, which is PPS Lesson 1, which is quite a comprehensive self-exploration that helps you identify what blocking factors you may be dealing with from your own life experiences and development that are stopping your creativity and stopping you from building your dreams. And it also teaches you about the 10 key components of any dream or legacy, which is your overarching goal or dream, so you know how to identify these pieces and put them all together so you can get to a functional working synthesis or a natural flow of your creative energy. So if you don't know what your dream or your direction is, then you can put in what is your most important goal or objective that you want to accomplish at this time in your life that serves as a functional dream. If the willingness factor by you is not at least 7 out of 10 scale, you're probably BSing yourself and I would recommend that you look for a higher dream goal or objective until you can get one that's an affirmative 7+ out of 10 as a subjective rating scale. If you are suffering from a lot of challenges in your life, financial stress, relationship stress, and feel somewhat incapacitated and or are finding it hard to dream, then my suggestion, as it is with my clients that I coach in my professional practice, is to look for your #1 nightmare, or the source of greatest resistance to your own inner well-being, happiness, and or flow of your own creative energy. Focusing on your nightmare is a very, very wise idea to do. Making excuses about why it won't go away, again, exemplifies the child, and that can be a very long, lonely, and even dangerous hunt, consciously or unconsciously, for parents that will, shall we say, support you while you're figuring yourself out in life, but your landlord's not going to help, and the people that own your cars and your houses aren't going to help. So it's time to get out of that archetype if you're stuck in it. So once we know what our dream or our nightmare is, here you see the Tai Chi symbol. That's the feminine principle, yin. Water rests at the bottom. Fire rises, yang. So the female and the male qualities of our creative energies, they're both relevant to all created forms and beings. Yin is represented here as the negative pole. Yang is represented as the positive pole. This sets up the polarity that we all experience. The dream line would be akin to saying living in the Tao, or to quote D.T. Suzuki, who defines Zen as the most efficient way. So if you want to create your dreams in the most efficient way, if you want to live in the Tao or on the path, which means to be in flow with the universe, then living in your dream line is a wise idea, and it does require conscious self-monitoring and conscious participation in the execution of your own stated dream and core values. Your core values are your guidance. Set your own stated morals and ethics. And in my book, The Last 4 Doctors You'll Ever Need, I do take you through a section on how to establish your own core values. PPS Success Lesson 1 is even more comprehensive in that regard if you want help there. So let's take a look now at what are the common things that we've all got to pay attention to if we want to live Zen, live Tao, or simply create our dreams efficiently and effectively, and have the creative energy to deal with the challenges that are natural to any dream. I tell people all the time in my classes and with my patients, a labor of love is always much easier to sustain than a labor without love. As the old saying goes, if you don't have your own goals, know for sure you are working for your boss's goals. So many people that are employees walk around complaining and talking crap about their bosses, but don't take responsibility for the fact that working for somebody else could be the most awesome opportunity to get paid while crafting your dream and putting the building blocks in place, so that when you've got everything in place and you know what you need, as I show in PPS Lesson 1, you can give your 2-week notice, big hug, and out the door to go create your dream and your legacy. But most people just sit around poor meing, my boss, I've seen a million times that stuff, drives me nuts. Instead, get busy and know that to the degree that you're working on your own dream, then your boss is on your dream team, because they've given you a place to feed yourself and make a living while you're taking responsibility for growing yourself into something that you would enjoy being more than what you are right now. So when we look at the dream line and the contents of things that are relevant, the 4 doctors represent categories of values. My values around food, my values around exercise, my values around quiet, my values around movement. And all of these things have a physical, emotional, and mental expressions. So my Dr. Happy values can be related to my physical body, my emotional sense of happiness, my mental sense of happiness, and ultimately all of them really are how you capitalize on the potential of love's creative energy. So love is the, shall we say, the fuel source, if you will, the power source by which all dreams are created. So with that in mind, let's look at how to identify the dream line. What are some of the polarities? The negative aspect of love is not loving yourself enough and potentially not loving others enough, and that expresses itself in the mental emotional state of apathy if it reaches a, shall we say, an extreme expression. Apathy by definition means I don't care. So once a person no longer cares for themselves or others, they're suffering a very serious love deficiency, and that usually reflects itself in their overall health and well-being. Too much love is often a means of avoiding or excessively controlling. For example, a mother who overloves her children actually takes away their opportunity to explore and experience life and learn about the truth of life's polarities and the ups and downs. And so those kids often become, shall we say, underprepared for the realities of the world and may end up being mommy's babies for the rest of her life and may exhaust her. And I've treated many such overloving mothers for the disease called breast cancer, a very common side effect of that mental emotional profile. It can be a means of avoiding your own life, and overloving kids can also be disguised as a means of living vicariously through them, trying to get them to do the things that you wish you had done in your own life but didn't, or trying to get them to avoid the things that you were too afraid of, like jumping out of an airplane and skydiving, but never tried. In other words, the overloving mother says, oh, you'll get killed doing that, don't do that. But in reality, she may wish she had done it but chickened out, but now lets her fear dominate her, shall we say, education of her children. Could be a male, could be the father or the mother, could be anybody. So overloving has its challenges, underloving has its challenges, but extracting your love to effectively participate in your dream and manage your nightmare or your crisis would be the balanced use of love. Dr. Happy, when we're online with Dr. Happy, we celebrate who we are, we see ourselves in the mirror every day, we participate in our lives, we take responsibility for creating our own happiness, and we also know that happiness is not a temporary state that only includes happiness, i.e. everything's going perfect. True happiness is a state of, shall we say, mature understanding of the natural undulations of life and willingly participating in meeting the natural resistance that comes with the creation of any worthy project or product, including giving birth and raising children, giving birth to children and raising them. Every mother and father and child find there's undulations, but a person can be quite happy as a general, shall we say, theme within the context of those undulations. Certainly we all have these challenges, but it doesn't mean we have to run out and take pills to get rid of the challenges. So when Dr. Happiness expresses itself negatively, you see depression, and usually the amount of complaining a person does is a measure of how, shall we say, incongruent they are with their own Dr. Happiness values, or it's complaining means you are not clearly defined in what you're creating in your life, and you're expecting other people to do it. I know in times in my life, when I hear myself complaining, it's usually because there's something that I have not had a chance or the energy to, shall we say, manage more effectively. And after a while I hear myself and I have to say, okay, well, it's time for me to take responsibility for that, because it doesn't seem like the fly on the wall is getting the message, so to speak. If Dr. Happy becomes artificial, then that is also a situation that's a bit of a pathology, because you present yourself to others as though you're happy, but then 2 weeks later we find out that you've been diagnosed as depressed, or we hear someone commit suicide who we had no idea was unhappy. So typically you'll see if there's artificial happiness, in my experience as a holistic health practitioner, there's almost always some form of avoidance behind it. A very simple analogy I can give is if you have interacted with people that are obese, they often present themselves as almost overly jovial. And my observation is that's a psychological attempt to distract us from looking at their body. If they're funny, if they're supportive, then it's as though they're hoping we won't really see the predicament that they're in, or hoping we won't judge that. So there's many other things I could say, but wherever you see over happiness or artificial happiness, I encourage you to look in your own life or help the other person find what they're avoiding in their life. Whenever you're going to establish happiness for yourself, you have to have values. Your yes has no value until you learn to say no. So if you don't know, for example, what your values are on when you're going to go to bed at night, how much exercise you're going to do or not going to do, who you're going to make love to or who you're not going to make love to, what books you're going to read or not going to read, etc., then you're really, shall we say, a leaf in the wind without any sense of a living philosophy. You're a kite with no tail, hard to fly and hard to fly with. So if you're not living your values and you're expressing the negative or the stagnant energy of excess yin, it usually means a lack of commitment. When I see a lack of commitment, I go right back up to the top and say, have we effectively qualified your dream, or do we need to choose a dream that is, shall we say, more congruent with your current motives or motivation? Because if we're not getting commitment, in my opinion, it's almost always somebody who's, shall we say, just pull a dream off the cuff but hasn't really sat with themselves to explore what they really want to create, which is the process of PPS Success Mastery Lesson 1 if you need help. Excessive commitment to values, that can be another form of avoidance. It can be a form of, shall we say, asceticism. It can be a form of demonstrating your power. Look at me, I haven't had sex in 100 days. I'm a yogi, or I can sleep on nails, or I will starve to death rather than eat something that doesn't fit my extreme value of organic, free-range organic food that only came from a cow that had happy relationships and was ordained by Sai Baba as safe to eat. You know, that would be excessive. So one of the things that we all probably don't really like too much is when people become fanatical. If their value is not to smoke and they're getting up in the face of smokers and pulling cigarettes out of mouths or criticizing them or even doing it behind their back, to me that represents a fanatic. And fanatics are like flies buzzing around your head. They can only be around your head so long before you want to incarnate them. Okay? So, next we go to Dr. Quiet. If you're balanced, you've got enough energy, and you have enough mental clarity and a sense of connection to your inner self to accomplish your dreams. If you're out of balance, you're usually going to show signs of lack of creativity and fatigue or being tired as a general theme. If you're over-rested and you're not meeting the requirements of your dream and your values, even though you're rested, it usually means you're not participating. So if you're just resting all the time, there's only a certain amount of yin before, if you keep living that way, you actually diminish your yang. The seed of yin is yang. So once you have adequate rest, you have the seed of dream potential. And if you don't actuate the seed by watering it, by living your values, then you just become, shall we say, a passive dreamer. And I wish I would have, I could have, I shouldn't, but I didn't. Or you end up being like one of the 50-year-old men in the bar. And the old saying goes, the older I get, the faster I was. But it's all talk. So if we go to Dr. Movement, when we're in balance, again, we're polarized to our dream, our exercise, our stretching, our breathing, our self-maintenance, and our respect for our body is congruent with efficient creation of our dream. If we are under-exercising, then we are underutilized, which means that even our bodies start to break down because we can get to the point where even gravity is too much work for us. As a side note on that, I found a research study a few years ago where they went and measured the VO2 max of people going into doctor's offices, and they found that 50% of the patients they studied hit their VO2 max walking from the waiting room to the examination room. If you don't know what that means, it means they started having excessive lactate production, which means they were already having to go into the aerobic energy system. They went through the aerobic into the lactate and anaerobic. They just maxed out all their energy systems at essentially walking down the hall to another room, which means trouble. So if you're underutilized, it means you're not participating and you're probably not paying attention to the messages your body's giving you every day. If you're over-exercising, you're going to be overheated. Whenever I see over-exercising, I see addiction to exercise. The question is, what are you avoiding? So you may be avoiding healing your relationship with your father. There's a lot of father connections to over-exercising. You may be dealing with your fear of constructive criticism from people and therefore are overemphasizing the physical elements of yourself, trying to make sure you're beautiful. And you could have many other issues that you're avoiding, from abandonment to self-sabotage to being a victim, and the list just goes on. So if you're over-exercising, you're going to overheat your body, you're going to inflame your body, and usually those people are carrying around bags of pills for everything. So that's one of your ways to tell if you're not sure. Next, doctor diet. If you're under-participating, you're going to be malnourished, and that will cause lots of physical, emotional, and mental challenges. If you're over-consuming foods, vitamins, supplements, all that, you're going to be what Rudolf Steiner called super-saturated, which numbs your senses, overburdens your detoxification pathways. Remember, having a pile of anything in your body poisons the body. Too much of any vitamin has to be detoxed by your liver. So if you look in, if you attend an HLC 1 course, Holistic Lifestyle Coach Level 1, I teach you much more than I can teach in these blogs, and we put it together in a working system so that you can understand some of these things in greater depth, although I try to make it logical enough that even a 12-year-old could participate. So here's some of the kind of ways you can look at the polarities, just like when you drive down a road. If that's the middle of the road, you cross that one, you get a head-on collision. If you cross this line, you're in the ditch. So the same way we want to have a sort of a balanced approach to driving, or we're in trouble on either side of the road, we have to be honest about what we're creating in our own life. So here's a few tips. One, remember the ABCs of dream creation. I take you through a pretty comprehensive dream creation process in PPS Success Mastery Lesson 1. If you go to ppssuccess.com or chekinstitute.com, you can find those lessons. The ABCs of dream creation, remember, they go backwards. First, you must be clear on your dream. Second, you must believe in yourself and your dream. And third, and important, probably most important, you must take action. So clarity, belief, and action, or you will be complaining a lot, most likely, and often jealous towards people that are accomplishing in their life because they are willing to participate. 2, what do you complain about or wish you could change? If you're not sure what needs to be balanced in your life, just put a voice-activated pocket tape recorder in your front pocket, and at the end of the day, listen to all the things you complain about, and that will show you right where there's resistance in your life and where you can start making changes. And one of those complaints that is the most likely to alleviate the stress in your life to the greatest degree could be considered your nightmare. And if you set that up as your dream and begin honestly participating in resolving that, I'm sure the universe will support you beautifully. Okay. 3, the mirror of relationships does not lie. Okay, so what are my thoughts? If you're having a head full of stinking thinking and woulda, shoulda, coulda, didn't, or blaming others, PPS Success Mastery Lesson 2 takes you through the science of brainwashing and how the brain is programmed, and shows you how to use that science to wash your brain to get rid of all the negative programs and mind viruses and thought entities that may be inhibiting your progress. And that's very, very common in today's world, where the average person watches 4.7 hours of very highly technical and scientifically designed brainwashing things called advertisements. When you study PPS Lesson 2 and you watch television, read the newspaper, or look in religious documents, it's quite a shock when you see what's going on. So what are my thoughts, what are my emotions, and what are my body telling me? When somebody's living over here, they're quite stable. They can get emotional and cry, they can get excited and angry. That's normal, but it's not a fixation. They're not stuck there. We know who these people are because if they get angry, we honor that something's really going on. And if they get emotional and they're in pain, we know that they're not gold bricking, as my dad would say, faking it. So it's easy to tell when someone's living that way because we understand those emotions to be real, not habits of avoidance. So the mirror of relationships doesn't lie. Look at what's going on in your life. Take responsibility for the fact that all relationships are 50-50 deals. And if you're whining and complaining about a relationship for any length of time, simply get out of it. You can love at a safe distance. If you don't like your boss, love at a safe distance, get another job, take action. But walking around whining poor me is not going to do anything. Finally, number 4, stop bullshitting yourself. That's a big one. Even as much as I love my students and my clients, many of them bullshit themselves. And that can be positive or negative. You can bullshit yourself right out of believing in yourself, and you can bullshit yourself into believing that you're something that you're not. Either one of them will bring you face to face with the mirror of relationships, and you'll feel the bite either way you're going. So the Dreamline audio program is available at chekinstitute.com. It's not ci.com. That's just an abbreviation for me. CHEK institute.com. Dreamline audio takes you through some of this kind of information and more, and gives you some forms that I created to help you better manage your life so you can find healthy, functional balance in your life and live fully like I do my best to do every day. Thanks for joining me. Look forward to sharing with you as soon as I can. Bye-bye.